Hello, and welcome to Karloc to some science. Today we're doing item sorters. So let's get going, I guess. Right, let's start with the basics. The first thing we need in order to sort items is a hopper chain, where we have an input chest here, where we put in the items we're going to sort. Now this could be feeding from a farm, it could be feeding from anywhere, but so we come in, and in this way I'm going right to left. They can go left to right, doesn't matter. Each hopper is then pointing into the next hopper on the chain. So all the items that I put in here would have been sucked out by this hopper and shoved along the chain. In this case, they end up here in this chest. The reason why they stop here is this hopper that would empty them is locked because of the power on this block here. That's why I've got this lever here, just to lock this hopper. Right, other couple of things to note about a hopper chain is hoppers are spawnable blocks, therefore you need to do stuff to stop things spawning on top. Carpets work quite nicely. The other thing to think about is hoppers, the more hoppers add lag, and lag is a bad thing, therefore we want to minimize it as much as possible. So by putting a block with the inventory on top means this hopper will no longer be searching around for loose blocks to pick up. It will just be looking in this block above, and it appears from tests people have done that these droppers is the best thing to use. I just go along and have to believe that, so I tend to use droppers now. I do use furnaces occasionally early game, and furnaces were what we used to use before someone discovered droppers were better. Obviously droppers take a little bit of redstone. If you haven't got it early game, I would just put furnaces up here and then carpet or something over the top. And it's just a good habit to get into when you don't want your hoppers to be able to pick up stuff from above. By sticking something like a dropper or a furnace on top, it means if you drop a block here, or here rather, it wouldn't be picked up by this hopper anyway, plus you minimise the lag, so it's all good. Oh, wrong button. Right, okay, the next important thing to note is it's underneath this, what I call sort of master hopper chain, where we'll be putting in a hopper, and it will be a hopper that points either backwards or forwards. It doesn't actually matter which way round, because this will be the hopper that will be pulling a comparator signal off to like so and like so in order to be running our item sorter. Come around this side, remove that. So it doesn't matter if it's pointing forward or backwards, but it can't be pointing down because we'll have other hoppers below it there, and we want stuff to remain in here basically. So we'll be relying on the hopper below to pull items out rather than this to allow items to fall through it. Again, we can't go to the side if we're tiling them one on top of each other like this. If we have a gap in between them, then we could have them pointing to the side, because there's nothing that this could connect to. So we could run a comparator signal off that one instead if we didn't have them right next to each other. But I tend to tile them most of the time, so I just get into the habit of, I think most of them I usually point to the comparator, because I often place the comparator first, and then if you find the hitbox of the comparator, shift click your hopper down, you can point it into the comparator. Like I said, it doesn't matter whether it actually points in or away from the comparator, it just can't point to something else. And the other thing to note is not to do this, which is, again, be pointing that way. So in theory, this should work. but the way items move through the hoppers means an item would come here, and before it could drop into the one below, it would go sideways. And I think it's to do with it goes down then across. So because it can't move all the way down in one tick, it goes down, and before it can pull down again, it goes left. Whereas when you're sort of in the hopper chain proper, an item will come here, and then the next available tick that's going to do something will be to pull it downwards below if there's space in there to pull it. After that, if it fails to go down, it will go sideways. So yeah, your sort of starting point when you come down into this hopper chain, do not put your item sorter there, because either all of them or some items will go past it before they get pulled down here. So it's best to just get into the habit of never putting anything there. I tend to leave this one empty as well, but there's no real reason for that. Right, what else? Right, hopper chain. So we're usually feeding this from a farm, unless we're just doing an item sorter for our storage. So we could get a crazy amount of items coming through here to a point where one of our sorting modules will overflow because it'll be full up, and the items will carry on through here. Now what we don't want is this hopper chain to get full up and fill all the way up with items, because generally it'll be the item we got lots of, and then it'll mean the farm we're pulling things from will have items stuck in the bottom. So at the end of a hopper chain, we normally put a disposal system. So here I've got the chest with a hopper pointing into a dropper. This dropper's facing downwards, so you have to dig down to place it above you, and then it's got lava just down there. Now, one other thing I tend to do with my lava is I always put glass blocks underneath it and around it. Obviously this one can't be glass here because I'm going to place something on it. But the reason I use glass is mainly you place these somewhere in your base, and then you're digging out underneath your base to make more room, and you mine through the block underneath. That opens up the lava. Lava falls on your head and you die. So glass just means you can't insta-mine it with a haste beacon, so it gives you that the moment you break the block near it, it lets light out, so it's more visible. And secondly, the glass gives you just that fraction of a second to stop digging before you drop it on your head. So how these systems, there's nothing in here. The circuit I use for disposal from here is I run a comparator out of here. So that will be on should there be items in here, like that. Then I run a repeater and into a comparator, and then this is a comparator in subtract mode, so we click it to get that light on. The reason I do this is you've just always got a permanent signal of the strength you require into this comparator. You can do a slightly shorter circuit, but if you fill up this entirely, you may overrun that circuit and it will stop working. So this is what I use. So we've got a signal here because there's an item in here. Then we repeater that so we can control the signal. Then we have a comparator in subtract, which then turns into a clock when we redstone it like that. Now we've got a clock, we want to send this clock signal back to this block, which will power this to drop the items into the lava. So we need to get past this repeater, so we can do that with a redstone. And then if we redstone here, it will go into the side of this comparator, which we don't want, so we will put a repeater here. This repeater will power this block. That block will power the dropper. So we've got some things in here. If I flick this switch, you can hear and see it will pump all the items into here like that. What else I want? I just wanted to stack off stuff. The other nice thing about this circuit is it can run really fast as well. So here we're limited by the speed of this single hopper that's feeding into it, which is about 2.5 items a second. Whereas we could run a hopper into the side as well, and therefore if it's coming from 2 different sources, we could get up to 5 a second from the hoppers. And if we put straight in here, you'll see the clock's running really fast, and we're dispensing them or dropping them into lava at twice the speed. So this will do about 5 items a second, this sort of circuit. So I tend to use this circuit a lot for droppers into lava or for droppers in the bottom of an item elevator. Right, so here is what we have as the item sorter circuit, which is the sort of basic one that I think most people use nowadays. I think it was the Impulse SV that changed this older design into this for various reasons. But I'll go through that and how they work in a moment. So basically here's a shortened hopper chain here. This is my hopper here pointing into the comparator. Now this is the important one here. This is where we have our items to sort. Now various things to note here is we have 41 items in the first slot, and that is the item that we'll be sorting through this sorter. If I can click the right button, that will help. Right, so we put items in here. I put the sponges, they'll go along the hopper chain and they will get pulled in here. You can probably see it working. You are flicking on and off each time, unpowering this torch because it's constantly sort of staying off, which unpowers this block, which unlocks this hopper below that one, so the items can flow through into this chest. They're all done now. So you often get a block stuck in here, and that's just because of the speed, the time it takes for the item to move in relation to the tick of this torch here. But that's not a problem, it's only one item and it's just going to stay in there forever. Technically it doesn't, this one moves out and the next one goes in its place. So this is the thing. So we have the first slot is always the item you want to sort, and the other 4 are what we call filler items. Now the best thing to use is a renamed item, and you can rename it to anything you like. The main thing is this item that you're using as a filler cannot go into your hopper chain, otherwise it will start to break your sorter. So you could just use some random items, and in this case they have to be items that stack to 64 as well. You can't use items that don't stack or stack to 16. So yeah, renaming a whole stack of items costs you 1 level, so it's worthwhile doing. I've just given it a unique name here so I can't accidentally add them into my system. I've got some more left here. In reality, most of the sorters I make, I use normally slime balls or pufferfish or something that will not ever go into the system, just because I'm too lazy to name a restack or rename a stack even. So how and why does this work? Well, we need to look over here. A hopper with items in here, it's full 5 stacks of 64 stackable items, gives you a maximum redstone signal of 15 at the back. So this is the sort of the principle of it works in the varying length of this redstone signal. So as I take items out, the redstone signal length is shorter. Make sure I put the right stuff back in. So when we look at, for example, these two, this is a 2 length, or a strength of 2, this is a strength of 3. So here we have 41 plus 4. It doesn't matter what items at this point, because this is just looking at signal strength. So we get a signal of 2 when we have 41 plus 4. when we have 42 plus 4, as you see here, we get the signal strength of 3. So this is what makes this work when one item gets pulled into here. Now, because this hopper has items in, the only thing that can come into this hopper is an item called fill 5, 6, 7, 9, 8, or a sponge. And like I say, we're never going to put our filler item into this system, so the only item it can ever pull into this hopper is a sponge. As soon as it gets one more, it extends this redstone signal one more, which causes this repeater to power this block, which turns out the torch, which unlocks that, which releases this hopper that goes into the chest. Oh, simple. What do we have down here as examples? Oh yeah, we'll go on to that in a minute. So this is the bog standard item sorter. They're relatively easy to make because, especially if once you built one, you can build the other one too. I thought I'd build it slightly backwards here. So we have these 3 blocks across the top, so the rest of the signal step down into this repeater, into this block, which will go onto a torch. Then we have a comparator facing that way. We then put our filler items in, and whatever item we want to sort for orange wool, we can put as few or as many as we like in here at the moment. So then we take our redstone and we've put it all in. So now we need not one of those chests because that won't work. We need a trapped chest. Basically because we can't place a normal chest next to a normal chest yet in the game. So we have to go normal then trapped, then normal then trapped. So this is now connected. I will pick up some orange wool. So here we have one of them. So I can put my stack in at the top. It will pull along here. As we go in here, it can only put in orange wool because that's all we put in. And it will pull in here, build up to the level of 41, and then the next ones will flow through. So we'll end up with just a few in there. And again, you can see this ticking. Now, one of the important things when it comes to the amount of items and the way you fill this in, because one of the other things that you may hear of when it comes to item sorters is overflow. Now, that's a redstone overflow, not an item overflow like I was talking about over there. Because as you see, all these redstone signals are connected. So if, for instance, once we get up to 42 in here, we extend this redstone signal by 1, which then is enough to power this block here, which is enough to trigger the repeater. But a redstone signal of 3 will not affect the one next to it. So this is how you can make them tileable and not interfere with the one right next to it. So yes, so redstone signal overflow can be a problem if you're not careful. Doing it this way with 41 in the first slot and 4 single filler items will guarantee you can tile this and it won't cause a problem. The other thing is here, let's remove that. Right, fill that up, right. So this will be the circumstance of what happens when your chest is full, the hopper behind it is full, and then you get more items in. Eventually they'll get to this point where they fill up the first slot to 64. Now, as you can see, we still get a redstone signal strength of 3, and it doesn't interfere with the next block. One thing you shouldn't do, which I've seen people do before, is to save on the items they leave in the item sorter. They do it this way with the item you want to sort here, and then the filler items with 41 on here. Now that works fine if you've got them not tiled next to each other, or if you're absolutely guaranteed that you won't backfill and overflow the item. So sometimes on diamonds I might do it differently. I'll put, let's say, 2 diamonds in here and 40 filler items in the back one, because with 41 here you'll only get 1 in here, and in theory you should always have 1 in here, because it only, next time 1 comes in, it will add to your strength and will pull that 1 item out to the chest below. I would prefer, if I'm doing this, to do it this way, because then if there was a slight lag on the hopper pulse and it pulled 2 items out, it would just give you a little bit more stability on that. So we'll just go back to this where we were. Right, so if you do this, which is generally a no-no, you will get this problem where the hopper, the output from here, bleeds over to the next one, because there's enough items in here now to give a signal strength of more than 3, which goes into here. So then if we look in here, our item sorter is totally empty, and our filler items and items are now in here. So the next time any item comes in here, it will fall straight through this hopper. So this is what you call redstone overflow. You really don't want to have it. It will just break your item sorters left, right and centre. So don't do this. Basically it's bad unless you really know what you're doing. Do this. So we get the item here where you'll have 41 and 4 filler items. That way, unless you add more filler items into your system, it can never overflow on the redstone. I won't even bother mending that at the moment. I will just put this one back together to just show this will empty down to the 41 level. Right, a very quick visit here to this item sorter, which was the sort of standard one really before Impulse SV came up with this design. Basically this works fine, but it's not tileable because it's very easy to get a redstone overflow, as we were talking about just now. So these are fine to use if they're in isolation, so you could have one here and then one there, but not tiled. And this works in basically the same way, but you only need 18 items plus 4 filler items, because we're going for a redstone strength of 1 to 2 rather than 2 to 3. So that is basically, in a nutshell, an item sorter. That's what you need. Follow the rules. 41, 4, hopper chain running across the top. It's simple, well, simple-ish. Can't get it wrong. So that's sort of the basics of how it all works. Then we get on to non-stackable items. So a non-stackable item here will give you a redstone signal of 3. And oh yeah, that's just 64 plus 4. Don't know why I've got that one there. That's just to show that it's not too long. And here we go on to, yeah, that's the overflow again. Right, so where were we? Right, we're non-stackable items. I remember. So here we have a single non-stackable item gives you an output of 3. Obviously if I take that out, we get none in there. So we can't sort non-stackable items in the same way, but it is possible to sort them. And this is a circuit here for removing non-stackable items. Now these work slightly differently in the fact that these ones, this one and this one, work with a hopper underneath your hopper chain with the item you want. So the item will drop in here and then we use the redstone to drop it out further. The non-stackable item sorters work where this is the hopper chain itself and we need to read one of the hoppers in the hopper chain as the items pass by. So often I would put this at the beginning of my chain to pull out non-stackable items first, or you could put it at the other end after all your sorters, it doesn't really matter. And so as we're talking, so this is one of the hoppers in the hopper chain. We are pulling a comparator signal out of that, so we will know if a single item goes in here, it will give a redstone signal of 1. If a non-stackable, have I got one on me? No. Item, must have some more in here. Where did I put them all? Oh no, they're down here, of course. Let's grab a couple. So a non-stackable item will pass through here. While it's in here, we can read the signal strength. So we go from comparator, redstone, redstone, torch, down to redstone dust to send it back this way to the comparator that's powering this block, and this block is locking this hopper chain. So normal items will just pass through. So I'll put 2 orange wool in. When they get here, they didn't extend the redstone signal far enough, so they end up at the end. Where if I put a sword or 2 in there, all happens a bit quick, they come through into here. Again, like the other sorters, you'll usually end up with 1 item in here. Now I happen to use swords, but any non-stackable, Elytra's non-stackable, I think. Well, no, that's stackable. Oh no, of course. It's like I say, you end up with them in the hopper at the back because it can't release them both. So we'll just show one will get stuck, and now the next one will replace that. Let's just get rid of that horrible dark cloud. So that's very simple. This, the way I built this, actually only needs a redstone signal of 2 to activate it, but a single item will produce 1 and a non-stackable will produce 3. So 2's enough, and I just couldn't be bothered to build it a little bit further. You could just build the very similar thing, but with 3 redstone across here if you wanted, but there is just no need for that. How do I go up? Yeah, I could take it down here. Redstone. I don't want dust on it, but yeah, I could do it with a longer signal if I wanted to go off the 3, but there's just no point. It just takes more blocks, more redstone. So that is a non-stackable item sorter. Quickly get a view. Works very well, and yeah, that way I can separate all non-stackable items here, and stackable items will carry on past. Then I can put them through an item sorter. It will pass through the 16 stackable things as well. If we want to item sort 16s, as we've got with snowballs and ender pearls and such like, again we need to find this trigger point between a redstone signal of 2 and a redstone signal of 3. So we use the same thing. We'll use our, okay, I should put my named ones in here, but our 4 single items, and these must be items that stack to 64 because they produce different redstone signals. So we stick to our 4 Then we have 10 snowballs, in this case will produce 2, and 11 snowballs will produce 3. So we can use items that are stackable to 16 in the same item sorter, but we'll end up with just 10 of them rather than 41. I think that covers most of it. So here is just a little example of a sorter where I have a bunch of items in here. I've got diamond swords, blaze rods, enchanting book, diorite. So I've got unstackables there, some stackables to 64, some stackables to 16, and yeah, non-stackable again there. I've got it locked at the moment, just here to stop it because I'm about to activate it. Then here I have, as I just showed, the sorter for non-stackable items, so they will pull them down into this chest, which is empty. Then, okay, normally you wouldn't label them on the back, and generally item frames are a bad idea because they're laggy. But just to show you here, we're going to sort diamonds, cobble, ender pearls, emeralds, blaze rods, and then overflow here to there, which at the moment, let's just double check. Yeah, and they're in there just to check it's locked. Basically anything that doesn't get caught by the sorters will overflow here into this hopper chain, into this dropper. I've locked them here, so when I run all those through, we can just see what happens, and they should congregate in here. And then here is just my circuit again from the dropper to activate it, as I showed earlier. What I've also done here is this is a trash can where I can throw 3 more pufferfish. Oh, let's just show that again actually. 3 orange wool in this case, but this is a trapped chest, so the fact that it's open locks the hopper underneath it, so the items won't automatically pulled out. So if I accidentally shift click some things I want in here, until I close the chest, they won't be taken away. So it gives me just a moment's chance to realise I've mucked up. I close it, and then you can hear them getting dropped into lava. So here, the hopper just comes out the back, and it goes into the side of this dropper. That's why we heard them getting destroyed. Because these hoppers are not locked, it's just this one from the main system. And it's only temporary, so I could show in this demo of how it all works. So let's just check. We've got nothing in these chests. Go right around the back to our sorters. So this is how I would generally set up sorters. It doesn't matter what order they're in, where when you're just creating your sorter to start off with, you may not have 41 of the item you want. So you just stick one of them in there, and then your 4 filler items, which this case I've used slime balls and renamed them filler balls. Here again, 1 emerald, 4 of them, 1 ender pearl, 4 of them, and we know this will only go up to 10, whether these will go up to 41. And there's just some cobble, because everyone ends up with cobble. And these are the diamonds ones. These are the ones, like I said earlier, which I might do differently. So I use lots of filler balls and a 2 diamond. I have got it tiled here. So if I manage to fill up 3 double chests plus 3 hoppers full of diamonds, then it will break my cobble item sorter next to it. But I'm pretty sure that I'm not ever going to have that many diamonds, so I'm willing to take that risk. I understand why it breaks if it does, so I can fix it anyway. So, back round. Ugh, can't fly today. Right, so let's set this off. Now, it will take a while to pull these items through, so I'll be back in a short moment. So, welcome back. Hopefully I remembered to speed that up or cut it out of the video, otherwise it'd be very boring watching items disappear slowly. So, everything should have gone through. Yeah, nothing's flickering, it's all finished. So, in this first thing is non-stackable items. So we get our sword, our golden sword, our book, our helmet, our golden sword. Like I said, you will probably have one item stuck in here. Oh no, we haven't. Sometimes not. So yeah. And then we expect our diamonds to be here. Look at that. Beautiful. They're all in the bottom chest because the hoppers at the back pull it all the way down to the bottom, so you fill up the bottom ones first. Here we have some cobblestone. Obviously we got less because 41 will be in the sorter now. One thing to think about is while the circuit's running, one of these is these are normal chests, these are trap chests. So if the system is running and it's busy putting things through and I'm opening this one thinking, oh, what have I got in here? Because this is a trap chest, this will be accidentally locking the hopper that's filling it. So if I stand here opening this, then any items that come through for cobble will end up in the chest above. But you'll soon realise that. So we have some ender pearls as expected, some emeralds, and some blaze rods. Oh, this was just a trash can. So what items did we throw through? We threw some diorite through, didn't we? Yeah. So there's an item that was not picked up by any of our item sorters, so it ends up here. And then we can flick this if we want it to be destroyed. Quite often when I'm building things, and sometimes I'll have like big chests here, so it gives me a bit of an overflow chance to catch stuff if I've messed something up. And then when I'm happy that everything's working properly, then I'll unlock the hopper, either remove this, or often I just leave a lever in because it's nice to be able to lock stuff off, and as you see, that will be gone. So I can put it back to the lock position if I want it, but this is only really for testing. And if you're unsure, again, I haven't spawn proofed any of this, I haven't put my droppers on the top of these yet because it's just slightly clearer to see without all of that stuff in. So here was the diamonds, so we haven't actually ended up with the ones stuck in that second hopper today, which is good, obviously running lag free. So as you can see now, there's 41 blaze rods. We now have 41 emeralds, we have 10 ender pearls, 41 cobblestone, and just our 2 diamonds still that we started with. So that, in a nutshell, is an item sorter. I hope you found this video helpful and useful and actually explain how some of these things work. If you have any questions, please comment below. Even if you just want to comment, please comment below. And if you liked the video, please remember to like, and it'd be really helpful if you did. And also subscribe if you want to see more of my videos. Also, I've been starting to do some streaming on Twitch, so it'd be great if you came over there to twitch.tv/Karloc_UK. I'll try and remember to put links in the description as well. So thank you for watching, and it's goodbye.